So, what's up with all these way too old teens in 1980s horror movies? Was the demand for new slasher victims so high that they ran out of age-appropriate meat?
Too many bones!
While some on the list may not need wrinkle cream just yet, others, and especially the honorable mention, might as well have been wearing a sign that says,
"How do you do, fellow kids?"
Let's get started. The first character is from the modern-day vampire classic. It's a heartwarming tale about a young peeping Tom who just wants to watch his vampire neighbor do, nothing wrong with it in my book. But let's not waste our time talking about cool Charlie Brewster, who was only 23 during production and barely out of the womb.
Oh, you're so cool, Brewster!
And even younger than that was his iconic sidekick Evil Ed, at 20 years old. No, our first way too old teenager is none other than Marcy Darcy. I mean Marcy Rhodes. I mean Amy Peterson, who is Charlie's girlfriend and played by then 26-year-old Amanda Beers. Nice try, Amanda. But even all that makeup can't hide the fact that your glory days of romancing high school boys are a thing of the past.
Don't you want me anymore?
Our next entry is a victim in easily one of the best films ever created about massacres at slumber parties. 1982's The Slumber Party Massacre was made at the height of the slasher craze, a time when practically each and everything had already been made into a thematic slasher. We talk in holidays, celebrations, parts of the day, days of the week, and even means of transportation. So making a slasher about a massacre at a slumber party probably seemed like the only logical thing left to do. The film is about a group of girls whose sleepover fun gets violently interrupted by power tool aficionado and escaped serial killer Russ Vaughn. However, our 26-year-old teen Linda doesn't even make it to the slumber party, nor past the first act of the film, as the denimed killer has decided to remove her way too old body from the student body. You fool nobody anymore, Linda.
You know you want it.
Number 8 is someone from A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. Yes, that's the one where Freddy gets resurrected by Doc P. Man, one gotta love the coke-fueled 80s. Freddy sure did.
I'm Freddy, and this is for you!
Anyway, the surviving Dream Warriors are back at home and live their regular boring teenager lives, until Freddy shows up again and spices things up. Our way too old teen this time is the second best Kristen in the franchise, played by then 27-year-old Tuesday Knight, who took over the role from her predecessor Patricia Arquette. Freddy didn't seem to like the recasting choice either, and made sure that there wouldn't be a third Kristen. Ripped Kristen too. Our next candidate is part of the 1981 slasher The Burning, a film that manages to capture the whole summer camp vibe really well, and has arguably one of the most badass villains in slasher history. The handsome devil Cropsy. But he wasn't always that good looking. There was a time when he was just an ordinary caretaker, until that one fateful night when a bunch of kids accidentally decided to turn him into a human torch. But he didn't like that. He didn't like that at all. So he set out for revenge. Fast forward, we are at a summer camp again and looking for our future victim that is way too old to still be here. No, surprisingly it's not Frogger enthusiast George Costanza, before he lost his hair and became Jerry Seinfeld's sidekick. And it's not Johnny Five's definitely Indian developer Fisher Stevens either. It's one of the most unlikable characters ever, with a beautiful name Glazer. 28-year-old Larry Joshua very convincingly plays the summer camp bully and barely passes as a real human being, let alone teenager. So it's only fair that Cropsy ends this dude's non-progressive character arc rather abruptly. But he still got laid, so that's more than most on this list managed to achieve during their screen time.
Shit. That's all.
What do you get when you combine Carrie with The Exorcist and add some Conan Burlian body horror on top of that? Exactly, you get a pretty weird flick called Hello Mary Lou, Prom Night 2. In case you are hoping for even more disco action here, you'll be pretty disappointed, as the film has no real connection to the first part, and was only retitled in order to capitalize on the success of the original Prom Night. Hello Mary Lou, Prom Night 2 is yet another film about a human torch. This time, it's most loyal girl Mary Lou, who gets set ablaze by accident at a prom in 1957. 30 years later, her vengeful spirit possesses the body of our main teenager Vicky. Vicky is just your average high school student in Shelley Long look-alike, but not the way to old teenager we are looking for. Our focus is her snobby rival Kelly, who would do anything to become prom queen. And by anything, I mean anything. But not even her subtle makeup or aggressively 1980s hair can distract us from the fact that this grown-ass woman is 28 years old and shouldn't be able to be prom queen anyway.
Hey, Kelly, how'd you blow it?
Let's continue with John Carpenter's often overlooked 1983 car romance Christine, a film about the toxic relationship between a possessed 1958 Plymouth Fury and a high school nerd. But Loverboy Arnie isn't the one we want to focus on, as he is a rather believable high schooler with his 22 years and boyish looks. And it's not the 23-year-old school bully buddy either, who looks not a day older than 37. I mean, come on, look at those sideburns. While researching, I stumbled upon this totally not weird thread on Reddit. Anyway, then there is the 26-year-old Don Wurtenberg, a bully buddy of Buddy who gets blown up by Christine in a gas station. And finally, our oldest teenager of the cast, Bemis at 28 years, who is friends with Arnie's best friend and really wants to get laid to finally lose his virginity. Bemis, I believe in you. Because it's about time at 28.
She smiled at me. I want to have deep, meaningful sex with her.
Number 4 is a staple of 80s horror boobs. The ever so charismatic Linnea Quigley in the cult classic Night of the Demons, a film about a group of high school students who thought it would be a swell idea to throw a Halloween party at an abandoned and rumored to be cursed mortuary. Oh boy, writing horror movies in the 80s sounds so easy. The party fun doesn't last long, until our guests start to witness strange things happening, with the occasional demonic possession here and there. Linnea really seems to be enjoying herself in Night of the Demons as a 29-year-old teenager and gives a very memorable performance, especially if you happen to be of the male pubescent kind. No wonder Suzanne became one of her most iconic roles, in addition to the redhead punk girl Trash in The Return of the Living Dead. Poor Linnea though, she must be highly allergic to any kind of fabric. No matter which costume she wears, she just can't stand wearing it throughout any film's entirety.
What's the matter? Can't you handle it?
Let's take a quick detour from our chronological list to highlight our honorable mention from the Thanksgiving slasher classic Blood Rage. The film is about dysfunctional twin brothers Todd and Terry.
Hi.
One a killer who is on a killing spree on Thanksgiving, and the other one has to confront and stop him. The person we are looking for deserves to be on this list so much, I honestly thought he was even older than he actually was at the time. It's none other than Terry. I mean Todd. Or is it Terry? You know, the guy with a really devastating hairline for a 24-year-old. Sorry man, don't wanna be mean, just stating facts here. Our next entry is someone from A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, The Dream Child. It's the one where Freddy uses the dreams of an unborn child to make yet another comeback. Part 4, final girl Alice is now pregnant and has a new group of victims. I mean, friends. The way too old teenager of this group is none other than the Phantom Prowler, better known as Mark. One fateful night, the 29-year-old comic book fanatic gets sucked into one of his comics. A common thing in the 80s, as we all know. Mark is still the one and only to make Freddy go into Uber Freddy mode. Congrats Mark, for being the only one to make Freddy actually try. As the Phantom Prowler, Mark thinks he stands a chance against Freddy. Spoiler alert, he doesn't. But hey, at least his death was aesthetically pleasing, right? Not much blood, but the artistry was on point. Let's move on to number 2 on the list. After all the Crystal Lakes in the States have been freed from horny teenagers, Jason decides to make his big break in the Big Apple in Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. And by Jason Takes Manhattan, they mostly mean Jason takes the boat which is on its way to Manhattan. And by Manhattan, they mostly mean Vancouver. The film is generally not very well liked among Friday the 13th fans, but I for one welcome the change of scenery and the bold idea of quite literally moving the franchise into a new direction. After Jason slashed his way through most of the people on the boat, we finally arrive in Manhattan, and he sets out to finish the rest of them there. The way too old teen even made it this far, only to confront Jason in a fistfight, which is pretty brave and damn stupid. 33-year-old, we see Dupree plays most clever boxing champ Julius, who tries to defeat Jason by repeatedly punching his hockey mask. Way to go, champ. At least his death was quick and comical. Thank you, Julius. You tried your best, even if it wasn't very much. What's the last entry on our list of excessively aged adolescents in 80s horror films? It's someone from 1986 Slaughter High, a film about high school outcast Marty, who seeks revenge on his bullies at a fake reunion, 5 years after they played a cruel prank on him that left him severely disfigured. But it's not Marty we are looking for, it's a person that was majorly involved in pranking him back then. The final entry is someone who technically only plays a teenager for a short part of the film, which totally counts as I make the rules here. So without further ado, I present to you the beautiful 35-year-old teenager Carolyn Monroe in Slaughter High, who teased poor Marty one too many times. Okay. That was quite a few old teenagers we've just covered. So how about a quick recap to refresh the memory? Number 10, Amanda Beers as Amy in Fright Night, followed by Brinke Stevens as Linda in The Slumber Party Massacre. Number 8, Tuesday Night as Kristen in A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master. Next up, Larry Joshua as Glazer in The Burning. Number 6, Terry Hawkes as Kelly in Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2. Followed by Douglas Warhead as Bemis in Christine. Fourth in line, Linnea Quigley as Suzanne, Night of the Demons. Number 3, Joe Seeley as Mark in A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, The Dream Child. Second place, we see Dupree as Julius in Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. And the winner of this compilation, none other than our beloved Carolyn Monroe as Carol in Slaughter High. Hey, looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Real soon.